Hi, good evening. It's Wednesday, March 14th, 8 o'clock. I'm Geoff with Real Progressives. I'm just going to give it a few moments, let everyone come on in. Pardon me for one moment. Okay, excellent. Hey Les, how you doing? All right. So I've been thinking a lot. Hi Les. Been thinking a lot this week about where I wanted to go next, and been reading a lot of different things, and people have been reaching out to me as they always do. Hi Mindy. And one thing I'm just incredibly struck by, blown away by, to be honest with you. Certainly anyone that has been watching Real Progressives, anyone that has followed Stephanie Kelton, anyone that's been watching my streams for the last 2 months, hopefully we're all understanding, waking up to the fact that the U.S. government is a sovereign government, has control, complete control over its own currency. It creates it. It sets the value. It tells you and I and everyone else exactly what $1 is worth. And then it enforces the need for that currency through taxation. It is the tax that drives the need. You need the dollar because you owe a tax. That's why you need it. And you can use that because everyone is in the same boat. Everyone needs the dollar for that exact same reason. We all could use that dollar for everything else. It's a very convenient unit of account to exchange goods and services. But that's it, you know. And since we don't have a gold standard anymore, since the government under Nixon told us finally once and for all in 1971 that the US dollar is no longer pegged to gold. It's been done several times. Usually during wartime, we depeg the dollar from gold and we can spend big. And we did it for the last time in 1971. We have not been on a gold standard since 1971. The US dollar is not worth anything other than that which is backed by the faith and credit of the US government. So if we've been paying attention, if anyone's been watching my streams, anyone that follows Stephanie Kelton, Real Progressives, we all know this. And we all understand the practical implications of this. It means that we can fund huge projects because the federal government doesn't care how much something costs. It only cares that it can. If it wants to make a 21st century infrastructure give us a 21st century infrastructure, modernize everything from the ground up, it can do that. It only cares about, do we have the concrete, steel, manpower, machinery? Do we have everything we would need to do that? And over how long a period would we like to do that? That's what it cares about from a practical standpoint, from a functional standpoint. Functionally speaking, the federal government would not care how much that would cost. It would only care if we could. If we would be able to do so without causing an inflationary situation by spending too much too soon for the GDP of the country to be able to absorb that extra demand. So we all understand that this is functionally how it happens. And I'm still blown away by all the people out there that are more interested. I don't even want to go more interested, but certainly can't get their brains around it, aren't exposed to it, and are still insisting that we need to fix things first. And of course, my focus is always healthcare. That's what I work in. That's what motivates me. And I'm still struck by all the people that want to fix the ACA, that want to be able to simply fund the Affordable Care Act sufficiently such that it runs efficiently. and think that that would be enough. If we simply gave enough money there, that everything would be fine. But the Affordable Care Act doesn't cover everyone, never has, and is still a for-profit model for healthcare. It is immoral. I thank God every day for everyone that it saved, for everyone that was able to finally use healthcare and see a doctor. Thank God. But the people that were saved should have been and could have been part of a much larger family of people that got covered. Because everyone can get covered. Everyone. Everyone can get health care right now. So I don't understand the people who simply applaud what has been done, want to simply continue going down that road in the hopes that someday, somehow, somewhere, we'll finally wind up with what we all deserved in the first place. Because the thing is, when you realize that finance is not the issue is not how much something costs. The issue is whether or not it can be done physically. Do we have the resources in hospitals and clinics and doctors and nurses and medical technologists and pharmaceuticals lining up to give us the medicine we need, and the medical manufacturing industry ready and willing to have everything that we need to go? Do we have all that in place right now? And if the answer is yes, then we do it. But I still am struck by people that say, we got to be able to tax the rich. It's unfair that the gap between the haves and the have-nots are widening. We have to be able to do that. We need Medicare for all. Let's get the rich. Look, I understand. I understand when you say that it's ridiculous that we spend so much on the military. If we just took a fraction of what we spent there, we'd be able to get Medicare for all. I understand. I understand that that's your point of view. I understand that it seems logical. It takes money to do something. We don't have it. You do. So we'll take your money and we'll give it here. We will rob from the rich and we'll give to the poor. I get it. That's an idea as old as Robin Hood himself. Or themselves. I just want people to understand that it's not necessary to do that first. When I look around and I deal with insurance companies every day, and their business model is predicated on the notion of, I need you to pay me every month, and every time you go to a doctor, I need you to pay a little bit, and every time over the course of a year, you have a deductible you have to meet before I have to do anything. And once I, the insurance company, am on the hook for doing anything for you, my job is to tell you no. My job is to deny. That's my job. My first job is to take your money. My second job is to deny you any claim. And they will succeed. They will succeed come hell or high water. Pharmaceutical companies, their job is to only engage in the creation of medication that they can make money off of. The first ramification of which is that they will cure nothing. Absolutely nothing. And they have suckered in all the charity organizations, the March of Dimes, all these organizations, that are dedicated to the various diseases that used to be dedicated to a cure. But they have got them. They slowly got their tentacles in there by giving them money, by giving them a wonderful little, we'll underride, this retreat, and we will underwrite, this mass mailing you want to do. We'll give you money because we're on the same team, right? Yeah, you want to treat diabetes, right? No, they used to want to cure diabetes. But ever since the 1980s, ever since with the advent of AIDS and the difficulty with which it got to discuss that because it was deemed to be of a homosexual nature, and we can't do anything about that now, can we? So they came up with drugs, and that was the beginning of them charging an arm and a leg. That was the beginning of them charging significantly more than could ever possibly be considered moral. And once they were able to do that, once they succeeded in doing that, everyone else gets on board. Everyone else. Whether we're talking insulin, whether we're talking cholesterol medications, whether we're talking AIDS medications, it doesn't matter. No one is in the business of giving you a cheaper alternative. Even the generic drugs are still more expensive than they should be. And the only reason that they get away with this is because most people who get their medical care through insurance companies, the insurance companies will just pay it. It's cheaper for them to simply pay the cost than it is to fight with the pharmaceutical companies, to fight with the hospitals. They will pay it. We have created an industry that was supposed to be about curing disease, taking care of the least among us. And we have turned it on its head, and we have turned it into a for-profit business. And fuck if it's not profitable. Incredibly profitable. And we can do something about that. Because we, the people of the United States of America, not we the oligarchs, you, me, your friends, your family, everyone. Corporations are not people, but they do comprise of people. And I can tell you right now, most of the people that are in those corporations don't like the direction the corporation is going in, but they feel powerless. So let's give them some power. Let's wake up to what we can actually accomplish, what we can actually do. And stop patting ourselves on the back because we got a scrap. The ACA, for every good that it did, didn't go nearly far enough. It reminds me of the way that pharmaceuticals are funded in the first place, are approved by the FDA. They only have to prove that it is effective and not harmful compared to a placebo. For those that don't know, a placebo is simply a pill that, like a sugar pill. It doesn't do anything. But in a blind test, they'll give half of them a placebo, tell them it's the drug, and the other half of the test group, they'll give the actual drug, and they'll compare the results. So they simply have to prove that a drug is at least as good as not doing anything, and that it is at least not harmful. So when you have a medication on the market that is effective, it mitigates things somewhat, and it didn't hurt anyone, you can officially go on the market. And then here comes a competing one. And they can prove that, well, we are at least 3% better than that drug. 3%. Ooh, wonderful. 3% is nothing. But because all they have to do is prove that it is effective compared to doing nothing, and that it is not harmful, they can go on the market. And now you have a new drug, and they will charge an arm and a leg. but it's new. And because it's expensive, just the same way that we all looked in the world and we looked at things and thought, wow, that's $1,000. Well, that's probably good quality as opposed to that one that's only $100. I wouldn't trust that one. They charge as much as they possibly can because they know they can get away with it, and they make billions of dollars. They just came up with a medication that doesn't do much of anything. But because it does better than doing nothing, they'll charge billions of dollars a year. That's how I feel about the way we choose incrementalism in this country. We start off here, we want to get here, we know this is where we want to be, but instead of making a direct line, we go over the course of 20, 30, 40 years, and people are dying. 45,000 people a year die on average because they don't have access to health care. 220,000 people as an average die every year due to medical errors, the third leading cause of death in this country, right after cancer and heart disease. And that is the direct result of fee-for-service, for-profit health care. Even if you manage to, from the federal government, support the ACA completely, and even if you got them to support it so much that everyone actually got coverage, everyone, it's still for profit. 220,000 people die every year because doctors are pressured to make profits. If you are in business, it is your job to make sure that the first question you ask is, how can I make the most money off of this? That's your job. That's capitalism. If you are in healthcare, your Hippocratic oath says first, do no harm. So your first question must be, what is in the best interest of my patients? Which very often is a money-losing proposition. So you cannot be in business if you are in healthcare. They are absolutely, positively, 180 degrees anathema to each other. It can't be allowed. All you people that love the free market have got to stop loving it quite so much because it is deadly in the wrong hands. And if you are in healthcare, it is an epidemic of deadly. So we have got to start recognizing this. We've got to stop waking up. We could, right now, let the rich keep their money for now. Let the military-industrial complex keep its money for now. Let Wall Street alone for now. If we want single-payer health care, not for profit, where we are maximizing health and healthy outcomes, extended lives, better quality of life, if that is the goal, and it must be, we can right now, because of our operational reality, because of the way we finance things in this country, and other countries like Japan and Canada and Australia and China and England and on and on and on. Because of the way we function financially, we can do it right now. We don't lack for dollars. We lack for political will. It simply is a matter of choice, of our values. What do we value? What do we care about? Too often in Congress, what they value and what they care about are dollar signs for them, for the people they work for, which ain't you and I. It's the corporations, it's the oligarchs, it's Wall Street. White, black, man, woman, we are not enemies to one another. We are allies. Rich, poor, that is something else. But I want to make this very clear. I am not anti-rich. I've said this before. I will keep saying it because it is important. If you are rich, you are my brother, you are my sister. I don't care that you are rich. I care a great deal how you got rich. I care a great deal what you do with your riches, which is analogous to how do you maintain your riches. Right now, we have a situation where there are people in this country that are so rich, so wealthy, that they are able to, and many of them are, buying things that should not be for sale. They are buying our democracy. They are buying our politicians. They are buying the very soul of this country, and they are perverting it to their own ends. I'm briefly going to leave healthcare because what I'm going to talk about now is still healthcare. Because there are people right now, people that were shot in Parkland, who have to be able to use a GoFundMe site to be able to pay for their health care. For the crime of being shot as a teenager in school. The right of someone to buy an AR-15 is sacrosanct in this country, but the right of someone to get free health care as a direct result of the other person's right does not exist. I am here to tell you that the Bill of Rights was not created by God. The Bill of Rights was created by humans, flawed humans, failed humans, slave owners, misogynists, genocide. I do not hold them up as an example of anything that I would aspire to. There are two parts of the Constitution that I revere. The preamble, because it tells us what they wanted to do on the macro. And it did not say that it was only for the rich, the powerful, and the white, and the male. It did not specify, which means it's for everyone. The second part is that the Constitution can be amended. We can change it. We must change it. As times change, as values change, we can change too. And the Constitution must keep up. So one of the things that have happened in this country is our values. For 200 years of precedent at the Supreme Court, the Second Amendment was not affirmed to be a right of a citizen to own a gun for protection. It was affirmed, the Second Amendment, to be a check on the government. For the purposes of being in a militia, the individual should be able to have their own gun, to be able to take that gun and go and join the militia. Not because it liked guns, not because it thought guns were cool, not because it thought that it needed a gun for protection, not because it thought it needed a gun for hunting, but because it was supposed to be able to use that gun to go and join a militia. Either for the defense of the country, because at the time there was no standing army, or for the purposes of rising up against the government. 200 plus years of precedent, and the Supreme Court is saying this. Not me, the Supreme Court. All the way up to the 1990s, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court was saying that no one should have military-grade weapons. That the Second Amendment did not protect you. So everyone out there that thinks they know better shall not infringe, motherfucker! Show me your law degree. Show me the arguments that you have read. Show me the arguments that you have argued in federal court. And we will have that discussion. But until then, you're just a guy, you're just a woman, and you've got a gun fetish. You like your guns. You go to your gun show because you like guns. That's all. It's a fetish. And all the fear that comes with it. The more guns you have, the more afraid you are, as far as I'm concerned. Afraid of what? How many enemies do you think you have? How many people are out there dying to kill you? No more. It took 40 years of the NRA to change the national conversation. It took 40 years from the late 70s until we had U.S. versus Heller in 2010. 2008, 2010. The first time in the history of the Supreme Court where they actually affirmed that a handgun was protected under the Second Amendment for the purposes of protection. After 200 plus years, the Supreme Court changed their mind. I want you to think about that. Changed their mind. That means that another Supreme Court can change its mind again. It took 40 years for the national conversation to change. 40 years to get people afraid, to get people ginned up, to get people thinking, they're coming for my guns. 40 years to change the national culture. And the Supreme Court reacted to. 5-4. But even Scalia, in writing the opinion affirming that you had the right to have a handgun for the purposes of defense, even Scalia specifically said that the Second Amendment does not mean that they cannot restrict the sale of guns. What kind, how much? Even after 40 years of lying to you, even after 40 years of playing to the worst fears you could possibly have, all for the purposes of selling more guns, all for the purposes of money for other people, not you, not your life, not your safety, money for someone else. 40 years of that shit. And all they got for it was a mountain of bodies and the ability for you to be able to have a handgun for protection. You still don't have the right to an AR-15. You still don't have the right to an automatic or a semi-automatic weapon. You still do not have that right. But times change. The evolution of the Constitution shows us that times change. The evolution of our values in this country and the way that we reflect those values with the laws that we create. For example, we used to value labor in this country. And now we don't. And our laws reflect that increasingly. So if things can change, where do you want that change to go? What are you willing to do to make that change go where you want it to go? We don't have to beat the rich. We don't have to beat the oligarchs, inasmuch as we don't need to take their money to be able to afford green energy 100% right now. Single-payer healthcare covered everything, covering everyone for everything right now. Cover free education, college through your first PhD right now to cover a federal job guarantee with guaranteed livable wages for everyone right now. Certainly we can do any one of these things completely right now. All of them at the same time? Who knows? Anyone that understands MMT knows that we do have restrictions. Yes, we can make as much money as we need. We can pay for anything that is for sale in our own currency, regardless of how much that number might be. Yes, the deficit doesn't matter that much. Debt is non-existent. It's not debt. But no, we can't just simply pay and pay and pay and pay and pay indefinitely. There are real restrictions. It's our real resources. We must remember that when we talk about MMT, that we do not allow people to just simply say that, well, it means we can spend and spend and spend and spend and spend. No. We actually have real resources, and that means we have real restrictions. For as long as we have resources that are untapped, either natural resources here, human resources, resources from other parts of the world that we can import and utilize, as long as we have those things, then we're good. We cannot simply pay past our country's ability to produce goods and services to match that demand. And once we reach that limit, we do have things we can do through taxation, through bond sales, through all manner of, enforced savings. There's a number of things we can do to deal with an economy that's running hot before we have to pull the lever on spending. But we do need to talk about that. I'm seeing a lot of people, when they talk about MMT, they're saying, we can spend and spend and spend. And then they don't follow up with but we do have restrictions with resources. And then people on the chats will say, you guys are just full of shit. We can't spend, it'll be inflationary. Well, no shit, it would be inflationary if we just spend and spend and spend and spend and spend. We have to be able to explain these things responsibly. We can have nice things. We can have all the ponies we want if there are ponies to be had. If there's a way to get more ponies. If there's a way to import ponies. If there's a way. The question is always, what are our values? Will we spend relative to those values? What are our resources? Can we meet those values? These are the conversations we need to have. Paul Ryan is already talking about how next year we're going to have to start revisiting these entitlement programs because they're the ones that are the problems with the deficit and the debt. What a bitch slap that man. Bitch slap him right out of Congress. Forget about just simply taking away his House speakership. Screw that. Out of Congress. Out of my house. That is our house. It is a holy place. I'm going to say it right here, right now. Government is not your problem. Government is not your solution. Government is simply a place. It is a body where we send people to do the work of the people. And the people we send, they are the problem or the solution. And Paul Ryan is a massive problem. He does not work for us. He works for the oligarchs. He is bought. He is paid for. They have a receipt with his name on it. And he is selling us snake oil in the name of debt and deficits. A deficit that is not what he claims it is. It is simply the difference between how much we have spent in the economy versus how much we have taken back in taxation. That is it. And it doesn't matter how big it is, it matters where that money went. Was it wasteful spending? Or did we get something for it? Did we get employment? Did we get education? Did we get health care? Did we get something for it? Are we making improvements and investments in our future to make sure that we are not only a productive society now, but that we are also productive in the future, to make sure that payments that we will make in the future will have goods and services ready to be purchased by that money? This is what he understands. I believe fully that he understands it, but he can't sell that. He can't sell it because he knows that if you understand where the dollar comes from, if you understand how finance works, he is out of a job, because his job is to take things away from you. His job is to privatize that which should never be privatized. Prisons, healthcare, infrastructure, education. These are public goods. This is for the general welfare. People should be able to earn a living. They shouldn't be making profit. And the mother of all public goods, our elections. They have privatized our elections. Every voting machine you put a finger on, I always use this one, that is owned by a private corporation. And the software is proprietary. We cannot audit these things. We have no idea what is happening behind the scenes in that machine. None whatsoever. They have taken away our ability to vote. They have taken away our ability to choose our leaders. So we got to take it back. Now, they have money. And they have a lot of it. They have a lot of it. But the thing about them is, the oligarchs, the 1%, all they have is money. That's it. I feel bad for them. I do. Because they have poked a bear. They have poked I can't even speak. They have poked a hornet's nest. Everywhere around me, people that I believe to be asleep are waking up. Everywhere around me, I see people that are waking up to what is possible, to what is necessary. And the first thing that is going to be necessary if we're going to take back our country is we need to overwhelm them at the polling. We need to overwhelm them at the ballot box. There's only so much they can do and get away with it. Whether it be gerrymandering, whether it be voter suppression, whether it be purging of the voting rolls and the electronic voting machines. There's only so much they can do. If we overwhelm them, we win. In this country, we don't vote in record numbers. Our voting output is pathetic. Barely 50 to 55% vote on a regular basis. If we could improve that, if we can make it 75%, I'm not prepared to say right now exactly how much would actually be kept from voting. I hope it's only 10%. It might be as high as 25%. But if only 50 to 55% of the population votes, and we've got maybe a 3% spread, they can cover that spread. And they can cover their tracks. But if we overwhelm them, and we get 75% of the population to vote, they can't cover that spread. We win. It's hands down, and it's the only way it's going to happen. I want very badly for a peaceful revolution, but it's got to be a revolution. I'm not interested in resisting. I'm interested in a revolution. Bernie Sanders called for a political revolution. Damn straight. Fucking right. That's what I want. I want a political revolution. I want a social revolution. I want an economic revolution, an educational revolution. There should be no end to the revolution we get in this country because we have so many things that need taking care of. There are so many areas that we have been complicit in doing nothing about, and the world has changed around us, and we have to take that back. And the only way we can right now is to overwhelm them. Overwhelming force. Not violence. I refuse to acquiesce to violence. But peace, love, determination, anger. Fuck yes. Overwhelm them at the polling. Overwhelm them at the ballot box. They will not be able to do anything about it. And that's how we win. That is how we're going to start turning the tide. If you have a primary in your area, get involved. Push people to the left. Push people to the understanding that if you're running, you better understand the economics because you have the only voice we're going to have in that House of Representatives, in the Senate. So you have to know how the economy actually works while you're going. You could waste a lot of time in there learning on the job. And people are dying. So if there's primaries, you find the one that actually stands up for the people. That actually understands that single payer is not negotiable. There is a lot of plans out there that have Medicare for all in the name. But it's still for profit. So make sure they are for single payer. Make sure they're for saving lives. Make sure that they understand that we need a job. We don't need a handout. We need work. And we need good paying jobs. We need education. We could fund education 100% in this country. Fuck Betsy DeVos. We can make schools palaces. The Taj Mahal should weep for the beauty of the schools we could create here. And the salaries of the teachers should be the envy of the world. How is it that you should be able to pay a teacher pittance and make them pay out of pocket when they themselves are still living paycheck to paycheck with health care bills that are spiraling out of control? And they still have to pay out of their own pocket for school supplies for their kids. If we make education and health care and all these things public, still locally run, doctors don't work for the government. They don't have to. Teachers don't work for the government. They don't have to. They simply send the bills to the government, and the government pays it. You in Michigan, you know your situation best. You know your communities best. You know how best to serve your community. What do your schools need? Do you need more schools? Do you need more teachers? Do you need more educational facilities? Do you need more doctors? Do you need more hospitals? Are your roads crumbling? Not a problem. Boom. Here's a bill. Here's the cash. And obviously there's going to be hierarchies, there's going to be oversight, there's going to be making sure that we're not just, making people rich for the sake of it, obviously. But we must not allow certain things to go on the free market. It's immoral. We could actually be curing disease. Pharmaceutical companies don't want to cure anything. They want you to live with it. Because they want your money. And that is immoral if you're in healthcare. Federal government doesn't need your money, doesn't want your money. So if we send the right people, then the federal government will want to heal you. And they will pay commensurate to that idea, to that ideology. Heal the sick. Teach the ignorant. Teach the uneducated. Clothe the poor. Feed them. House them. Make a better society. I tell you this right now. Trump says, make America great again. And I'm telling you right now, for everyone that has said, make America great again, well, when was it ever great? I'm telling you right now, it never was. America was never great. Because America is an idea, an evolving idea. And the things that are great about America, and there are many things that are great about America, have not been shared equally. We need to make sure that the rights and liberties that are enshrined in the Constitution are not limited to those rights, and that they are not limited to just white people. They need to include everyone. Men, women, white, black, Asian, Hispanic, Native American, across the board. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all are created equal, not just all men. We, the people of the United States of America, not we, the male, white, gentrified population of America, we, the people of America. I don't say make America great again. I say make America great for the first time. Everyone deserves dignity. Everyone deserves love. Everyone deserves a job. Everyone deserves to be taken care of so that they can turn around and take care of someone else. We need to evolve our society, our culture, to move beyond barbaric ideologies of to the victor go the spoils. I saw that one today. To the victor go the spoils. Well, that is a violent, brutal ideology. The people that said, to the victor go the spoils, they would also engage in plunder, rape, murder. Wonderful company you want to keep. Pull yourself up by your own bootstraps condemns many people to death. And if the free market was supposed to make us great, I think we can say definitively right now that it has failed. Because we can see and prove that the gap between the haves and the have-nots are greatest now than it was even before the Great Depression. Explain to me exactly how that makes us great. It doesn't. It exposes our fatal flaws. If you want to make America great, you're going to have to wake up to the idea that first and foremost, you'll be doing something that's never been done before, but always could have been, because that is what's great about America, is that it always can be. And we need to get it there now, while we still can. Because if things continue the way that they have been, for the first time in the history of this country, we might be looking down the barrel of, it's not possible anymore. If they take too much, if they box us in too tight, we're not going to be able to do an armed insurrection. All you Second Amendment people that think you're going to be taking on the federal government, you can't do it. I don't care how many guns you have. If they can take you out from half a planet away, you don't have enough. I'm sorry. Your argument is null and void on that basis alone. So work with us on another path. The only path that's really left available to us. You'll have to put down your guns. Fight with us for single payer, for a federal job guarantee, for green energy right now. I love my family, and I want them to have a future. I love you guys, all of you guys, girls, boys, and I want you to have a future. I'm tired of doing these live streams. I'm tired of writing letters. I'm tired of taking the time that I should be with my family to do these things. I am tired of the fact that it's necessary, that there's just not enough of us doing these things. So first things first, wake people up. Wake people up. There's a whole world of lies that we have been told and that we have passively agreed to. And if we can just wake up to those lies and just stop agreeing, stop talking ourselves out of our own power, stop convincing ourselves that we need to go incrementally, that it's too much to ask for to get single payer right now. We'll have to wait a little bit longer. And we've been waiting for decades. We're done waiting. We're done waiting for a federal job guarantee. We're long past done waiting for green energy, 100% right now. We don't have time. So we do it now. Please wake up your neighbors, wake up your friends, wake up your enemies if you have them. Wake everyone up. Take a half hour a week and write a letter and send it everywhere, to every newspaper out there, to every media outlet out there. Post it on your Facebook page, on your Twitter, whatever. Do it. Just half an hour. If that's the only thing you do, you will be doing more than has ever been done before. But please don't give up. Please do not allow them to convince us that incrementalism is the way to go. Do not allow them to convince people that the debt and deficit are real, that they are problems, and that we're going to have to cut more healthcare than they've already cut. Please. My family, your family, everyone's family depends on this. I love you guys. I'll be back next week. Write me if you need. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you're feeling. Let me know what you're going through. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.